Maine is close to becoming one of a few states in the country to provide a retirement savings program to workers who don't have access to one through their jobs. The Maine Retirement Savings Program is designed to provide a way for Maine residents to contribute to a Roth individual retirement account directly from their paychecks. Workers would retain the account from job to job until they retire. Governor Mills signed a bill last month advancing the program. The bill makes numerous tweaks to the program, including increasing the maximum amount employees can contribute from 8% to 10% of their salary or wages per year.